Hello, guys, and welcome to the Stable Diffusion 2.0 AI Hackathon. We are extremely excited to welcome you today as it's our first event we are having in partnership with Stability.AI, but it's our second event we have about Stable Diffusion. And today we'll have really excited agenda full out with a lot of lectures from Stability AI team as well. We have today Redis with us telling us about the technology and how you can incorporate it into your project. And also we have Pavel today with us, who is the co-founder of New Nature, which is the father company of LabLab.ai. It was supposed to be extremely excited. And let's move on to the stream. Really want to see what will happen next, and also kick off the 7 days of building. Who am I? So I'm Olesya Zinchenko, and I am the event specialist and marketing manager at LabLab.ai. And I'm the person you see all the time on ads. And also, I'm your stream and Twitch advocate for today. So feel free to write any questions you may have. I will read it on my phone and I will ask it to the streamers, to the speakers that will join us today. So super happy to help you with that. And also, if you have some organizational questions regarding the platform, regarding Discord, feel free to ask. But we will talk about it very detailed in further presentation. Okay, let's move on to the agenda of whole 7 days of the hackathon. So today we are on kickoff stream. That's happened right now. And we will be talking about LabLab, what is the LabLab platform, and we will have also a quick intro from Pavel. After that, we will talk to Redis team with their introduction and inspiration for you to start building for the 7 days with their technology. Also, we'll have hackathon guide where I, in details, will explain you how to use our platform and our Discord server to make it easier for you to kick off. After that, we'll have Stable Diffusion story time. We will have a short talk about the API, and we'll invite Scott Detweiler to talk about the quality assurance at Stability AI and Stable Diffusion model, and about his experience with Stability AI, as he was also a speaker for our previous hackathon, telling about the usage of model for photography. After that, we will have a very practical workshop about visualization of stories using ChatGPT and using Stable Diffusion Excel model, which will help you to understand how to make your pictures looks in the same style, looks the same to make these stories complete. Also, we'll have Frank who will tell how to make app actually uses Stable Diffusion, as he successfully created Cowork AI on our previous hackathons, incorporating Stable Diffusion model, and he will make unpacking of the model of his app for us to have better understanding how you can actually build app using these technology. We'll have Adam with us talking about the Stable Diffusion, and also you will have opportunity to ask questions to him. And on Monday, we will have one more technical workshop, how to use Stable Diffusion and prompting to make your pictures very detailed and the way you actually want. And of course, submission deadline will be next Friday in the evening. And I strongly recommend you to go to the event page and check the same agenda adapted to your time zone, so you will not have any questions about deadlines and times when we have talks. Okay, and I'm happy to invite Pavel to the stage. Pavel, let's talk about LabLab. What was our mission, why we started it, and how people can actually get benefited from LabLab.ai.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the global community of AI builders and innovators and creators
API.
that are on LabLab. First of all, if you're here, it means that you are on the cutting edge of technology. Today, you will be playing with the newest version of Stable Diffusion Extra Large SDXL. This is the first global hackathon with SDXL. So you are the real innovators in the community. LabLab is your tribe. Yeah, you found your people here. If you're already here, it means that you can find people that will talk to you about what you really love, whether it's AI fashion or it's AI advertisement or it's AI models or it's building with the best databases and building with the best technologies. It's all here. It's all on LabLab. There's thousands of people for you to play around with. For this event, more than 2,000 people are joining us. So get together, build your teams. Yeah, there's functionalities on the platform. There's mentors available for you. There's tech access available for you. There's tutorials available. So whether you are a first time believer that you can create something out of nothing, or you're an experienced hardcore person that is already deep into AI technologies, you will find something new for yourself. The goal here is to be part of the act of creation with us. And what you will create in the 7 days is functioning prototypes, software, products, services, and the top teams get super cool prizes, and the top teams get accepted to a 5-week incubation program in which we help you go from prototype to product market fit and go to market. So um, I'm inviting everybody on this journey with us. On LabLab.ai and New Native. We, as an organization, believe that we need to accelerate the pace of innovation using technology to solve global problems on a massive scale. And these are problems of productivity, and these are problems of climate, and these are problems of uh, your personal beliefs as well, whatever you want to solve and whatever you want to create. So we really invite you on this journey with us. Um, I hope that you will find the catalyst here during this event. You will find the spark of innovation with the other people that are joining here. Yeah. So you are not alone anymore. And if you are a solo builder, then I also encourage you to find a team or finish on your own. But here you are not alone. You found your tribe, and we welcome you with open arms together with Stability.AI, Redis, and Versal. So we are extremely happy to have all of your support and all of the people here with us. And I hope that you will find the next 7 days game changing. Yeah. So you are already winners if you joined us. You will be double winners when you finish the hackathon, and potentially triple winners when you're selected as the best builders. So thank you very much. And I will give the voice back to Olesha, and you'll get an extremely interesting and knowledgeable time right now on the stream and through this whole 7 days. I encourage everybody to be with us, check out tutorials, check out the technology pages, check out the LabLab Discord channels. People from Stability, people from Redis, people from Vercel are here to help you, to support you. They believe that you can build something really astonishing. So we respect your time tremendously. This is a big time commitment, and we are here to support you.
Thank you, Pavel, for the inspirational talk. And really huge advantage of this hackathon for now is that you are actually able to connect with people from like tech creators, people that were creating the technology itself. Now you can connect with them on our Discord, asking whatever questions you may have regarding your project. And I strongly encourage you to do so because where you can else try it out. Guys, I see that you're writing on the chat, and I'm super happy to see you. And hi to everybody that just wrote hello. Max, can I kindly ask you to move the Twitch chat channel under my face so we can see all the messages, because that's a bit tricky with contrast. Thanks so much for that. And now I'm inviting Redis to talk about the technology and how people also can benefit from this. We have Brian here, we have Tyler. Guys, please jump on the stream and we'll be happy to hear how we can benefit from your technology.
Well, absolutely. Hey guys, my name's Tyler and I'm here with Brian and we're with Redis. And guys, we are so excited to partner with LabLab and be part of this event. It's really an amazing time. We've done a couple of these so far together, and as many of you know, and maybe some of you don't, Redis is available as a side quest for these different events. So the way that works is you can utilize Redis in a couple different ways, and we'll talk about that. But if you can utilize Redis in your project, then you're available for potential prizes and winnings at the end of all of this. And so, yeah, look, from the top of our company down to all of our community and open source contributors out there in the world, we are really excited for you all, and we're here and we have your backs. We believe Redis is a great product, of course, and there's so many new, wonderful, amazing products that are coming out every single day, it seems like, in this new landscape. And we're just happy to be a part of it. And so Brian and I are going to share a little bit about Redis. And Brian, kick it off.
Perfect. Yeah, so let's talk about Redis. Redis, it's been in our industry for as long as I can remember, but it's always been an invisible player because Redis is the secret sauce that makes things go fast. And just like the rest of the industry, we basically embrace AI and ML, and we can see where things are moving towards. And our mentality is that there's a blurry line between disk and memory, and Redis is already on the memory side of that, where it's where all the action happens with AI. So that's where we live in, where we can provide the best features for people putting AI into production in terms of large vector spaces in embeddings. Redis is probably, even if I didn't work for Redis, it would be probably my number one choice to get that stuff closer to where the action is. We're also embracing computation in data modality as a combination of factors that basically improve our lives as developers. So we have in Redis, if you can see the slides, we have open source Redis, which basically it's the most loved platform in the world right now, data platform in the world. And we have a bunch of different open source data types in there that you can basically use in memory. They're super fast, super easy to use. Then the layer above that, we have a offering that we call Redis Stack, which is basically where developers are going to live, because it provides the most common data types that you need in a modern computing environment, all glued together beautifully with a search engine, so you can basically search for things very fast in memory, which basically pairs up really well with the world of AI. Like we need to find those large blobs of memory that we need to operate upon in our environments. And then obviously, if you want to, as a company, if you want to get into an environment that is basically already productionized for you, we have Redis Enterprise, which basically gives you all the reliability and enterprise grade strength that you want from a cloud or in-house offering. So that is what Redis is. We have in our company a very strong movement towards developers, and we're trying to basically make AI a very democratic field, so you can actually get started without having to basically get a master's degree in machine learning or in computer science. So take a look at our libraries. We are basically doing the best that we can right now to bring the world of vector search to the masses. And I am actually in charge of the Java part of the offering. So if you're a Spring developer using Java, we have a set of VSS libraries built in to work with Spring, which is one of the most popular Java platforms out there to build microservices. And I'll be around for the hackathon. So if you want to build something with Spring in vector search, I'll be there to help you.
Amazing. Thanks, Brian. And look, guys, Brian is one of the best folks we have, and he's super sharp. And like you said, if you guys are using Java, if you guys are interested in vector search, Brian's a great person to hit up. And he's in our Discord server here and in the Redis channel, and you guys can find him there. And so, as Brian mentioned, there's a lot of capabilities that Redis has moved into beyond just being a key value store, which is how a lot of people understand and know Redis from the 10 to 12 years we've been around. Redis is really also being used in a lot of these real-time machine learning and AI data use cases. So that would be things like for machine learning feature storage. If you have machine learning models that need access to data quickly, Redis is a great option for that. We have customers, partners, open source contributors that are doing that all of the time. And then now, as Brian also mentioned, Redis can be used as a vector database. And so all of your unstructured data like images, audio, text, videos, all of that data using the power of AI and machine learning can be converted into vector embeddings that represent the semantics and sort of the nuances of that data in a way that a computer can understand. And it stores it in Redis and in our low latency database. And so then you can do things like finding nearest neighbors and finding similar entities in the data just with our API. And so if we want to move to the next slide, I can show, we're going to rifle through a couple really simple use cases for this. One of them is, for example, if you have text, if you have documents, you can use OpenAI to create these embeddings, store them in Redis, and then actually expose search so that you can try to search through all of the documents to find relevant chunks or relevant passages that may be useful for a person that might be asking a question. Another use case is for question answering, and that's the next slide down. So for this one is very similar to semantic search, but it actually adds another layer on top of it, which is instead of just retrieving source material from Redis that may be relevant to a question, you can actually pass that and construct a prompt and send it back to a generation model like OpenAI has as well. And then that model can either do summarization, it can answer a question. So these models are really powerful and can all work together. But of course, the reason you're all here today for this hackathon is for working with Stable Diffusion. So this last slide, I'll have to give you guys a caveat here. I went to ChatGPT and was like, give me some ideas. Give me some ideas for using Redis and Stable Diffusion together. So I'm completely admitting this is not purely from my brain. But these are things that we've all been talking about and thinking about here at Redis, kind of leading up to this event. So these are a couple of use cases and ideas you can consider if you want to leverage Redis in your project. So obviously as a low latency object store, you can store strings, you can store even images that have been converted to data that can fit in Redis. You can turn them into embeddings and do things like image search and finding similar images. But the three use cases here that we sort of found and ChatGPT helped steer in this process, I'm actually going to start from the bottom. And so content personalization was an interesting one, where if you have all of this sort of user data, like maybe the feed of products they've interacted with on the web, or like different content or description about the users that are all stored in Redis, then your application that works with Stable Diffusion could potentially pull in all of that data from Redis really fast, right? Because Redis is very low latency. And then you can use that to generate input to a Stable Diffusion model that then would generate personalized content to that user. So that's one option or one idea you could potentially run with. Another idea you could run with is for this idea of like a real-time design platform to enable real-time collaboration. So managing multiple user sessions, generated prompts and images sort of across different user bases and foster that collaboration, updates, changes, sharing, all in real time. Another example might be using Redis to store and cache text prompts that are used to create an image with Stable Diffusion. That way, if people are searching for similar things later, you might be able to reduce the latency in serving some of those generated images to users. So those are a couple ideas. Look, we are here to help you all. So this is our team. The next slide has all of our wonderful faces here. You can connect with us. There's our email addresses. Feel free to reach out there. And then, of course, there's the Discord channel that has all of us in there. You can use the Redis tag also to talk to us. And then our folks our friends at LabLab have created a whole page full of Redis examples and tutorials and boilerplates to get you started. So we are really excited for you all on this journey. And thanks again.
Thanks so much, Tyler and Brian. You see now so many use cases.
Thank you.
And thank you for giving us really practical ideas how people can use it. And I see that it can be really helpful. And I'm super happy that you will be available through whole hackathons for people to help. Okay, guys, I see that we have people from Taiwan. We have people from North Korea, Turkey, Italy, Poland, Silicon Valley, US, and just so many countries. And Peru, I see that, yeah. Continue just writing to us. We are super happy to see your geography. And let me ask before we're moving on to the platform guide for top 2 questions I see in the chats so far. First of all, yes, we will have recording of this session. You will have here on Twitch. It will be available for all the time after the stream. And also you will get an email after the stream if you are registered to the hackathon with all useful links, especially the stream recording as well. The second question is, can you join without any specific background in AI or background in programming? Of course you can. We are accepting people with different backgrounds. And if in case you do not have programming background, you can be in the team as a business person, helping with presentation, helping creating the business model itself, helping with idea. And believe me, you will find a lot of responsibility to cover in the 7 days. And also, if you have just a little programming skills or you do not have experience in AI, we have a ton of tutorials you can start with and just try how you can like incorporate it into your projects. I guess you definitely have some ideas, and these tutorials can be really helpful for you to try out new things. That's why we created this hackathon. And let's move on in the very quick platform guide. In case you will miss something, you will always have it in recording. First of all, how whole hackathon process will look for you. Now you are on your kickoff stream and also creating or joining team process, and I will show you later how to do so. So in these 2 days, you have to create or join existing team to start building because you do not have so much time. After that, you will meet your team on Discord or any in any useful or like comfortable for you messenger you will find. After that, you are coming up with 2-3 concepts of your project, and you are communicating these concepts with mentors just to make sure that it's possible to build in 7 days and it's worth it. And you will just book the time with mentor. You will tag them in your channel and have a little discussion. And after that, you will get this okay go and start building. On the 5th step, you are actually building your prototype for a few days. And on the 6th step, you are submitting your solutions on lablab.ai, and we will have our evaluation process, checking all your projects, giving you some feedbacks that will be public. Actually, everybody can see it, that feedback, and then we will announce the winner. Okay, let's move on to the step-by-step guide. First of all, you're on the platform. Please fill out your profile, which is super useful as, first of all, you will not show it up on the submission page in case your profile is not filled out, because maybe you're just a spam bot. So fill out all the profile with links so we can easily contact you, and people interested in your project or in you itself can contact you easily. After that, let's move on to the next slide. Create or join a team. Once you enroll to the hackathon, you have your dashboard, and there is a button of create a new team. In case you have idea and you want to develop it and you need the team members, feel free to create your own team, fill all the information, and maybe describe your idea a little so you can find people and start building. Let's move on. In case you want to join a team, you have also the list of the teams on the dashboard. And for those who have this red mark that they are looking for members, you can just simply go there and click join a team button, and then team leader will accept you or reject you. Also, we have one more option, which is our Discord server. Let's click. Okay, that's about, let it be. So we have our Discord, which means you can go there on specific dedicated channel for this hackathon and write about yourself, like write your description. Maybe you have already some idea, tell about your background, and people that are interested in your background will just invite you to the team. And also feel free to contact other members if in case you see that you are interested in their expertise or it's relevant to your team. When you have more than 3 members in your team, including team leader, you will have opportunity to create your own team channel on our Discord. So simply on your team page, you will see the button and you can click it and you will have your dedicated channel where you can communicate with your team. Let's move on. Communication with mentors. We have mentors available for all the time of the hackathon. So in any time you need help, you can simply tag mentor in your team channel or on general channel of the hackathon or lab general on our Discord, and mentors will jump on to help you. Other case, you can use calling for help button on your team page, and we will see that your team needs specific help, and then we'll jump on your team channel asking how we can help you. But I strongly recommend you to use a mentor tag because it can ease the communication and you will get faster response. In case you can just describe your issue, so we'll find the best mentor for you to help. And also, as an advantage of this hackathon, you have specific channels. Let's click on the next slide. You see them here. So you have labs channels where you can ask questions for a specific technology. For example, you have questions regarding Redis, or you have questions regarding Stability.AI. You may go there, tag specific mentor, and ask your questions regarding technology. It will make the communication way faster. And also, you can find way more useful channels here on our Discord. Just feel free to discover it because there are a lot of tutorials, articles, memes. Everybody loves it. And also channels for specific type of communication or specific questions you may have. Let's move on. One more question is, in case you are working for a few days during the hackathon and you see that your team is inactive, your team members is not replying you, here we are offering you two ways. First way is ask people on the channel on Discord. Maybe somebody needs additional team member and your expertise may fit the best, so join existing team. And the second option is just in case you are really confident in your idea and you know that you have you are skilled enough to build it yourself, just simply work in solo because we accept in teams from 1 to 6 members, so you still can work in solo. And also on forum, we have thread for people that face this issue, so you can simply write there and you will find the people that face the same problem, and probably you can create your own team and work together. Whew, that was a lot for me to talk about, and let's move on to the technology part. Let me just quickly check, maybe you have some questions. I see that people are introducing themselves. Please just make sure to write the same on Discord. It means that everybody will see and people can easily contact you. Yeah, and all the workflows we already gave to you, so nothing else I can answer here on the chat. Okay, for this hackathon, we are using Stable Diffusion API, and more about this API we'll hear in the lectures in a few minutes. But that's something that you really need to know. So you are having an access to the Stable Diffusion, so you will be using Dream Studio to build and actually all the information regarding the technology and how to use it, you will also get with email, but be just attentive on today's stream, so you will hear more about how to use this API. But just for you to know that you are having access, like free access to use this API for this hackathon as a hackathon participant. Let's go to the challenge. So the challenge for this hackathon is to create your ready-to-play MVP product that are aimed to solve real-world existing problems. And for this, you have to use obligatory Stable Diffusion API, and also you can use Vercel software for this. And in addition, we are providing you a few more technologies. So let's go to the next slide. Here you see the list of technologies you can use in addition with Stable Diffusion API, but Stable Diffusion is obligatory to complete this hackathon. The list of these technologies you have on our event page, and also with all links to the tech pages, so you can see how to use these technologies. And just to name a few, it's GPT-4, ChatGPT, Whisper, DALL-E, E2 you can't use. We'll move for the list. Codex and all Cohere models you can also use for this hackathon. Let's move on to the technology. All the tutorials and all the guides through technologies you can use for this hackathon are on our lablab.ai/tech page. Feel free to check it out. And when it comes to demo, you have to submit working demo, which means that it's something like an app we can go and play with. So make sure to do that till Friday. And we recommend Streamlit or Replit to host the demo. Of course, you can use other models, but we are recommending these two as we know that they are good. Okay, let's move on to the evaluation criteria. So how we will evaluate your product. There are a few things we are taking into consideration the most, which means degree of completion. its presentation style and how much you care about present it well to us, its applicability and business values. So how it actually how huge business value it is, and can we push it to people to play with, and will it work actually in the business field. Then it's degree of innovation and how original your solution is, technology and how realistic to build this project after the hackathon, how unique is it, and overall impression, of course, of the project itself. And here you may see the prizes. I don't want to stop so much on this. I just want to say that everybody that are joined this hackathon, they are super lucky to have amazing prizes. All the list of prizes are on our event page. So you will be able to get cash prize and API credits in addition, which means that after the hackathon, you can easily continue working on your projects, having that much of API credits. Okay, and I really don't want to stop so much on the presentation itself, because you have really important information on the slide. So that's something you need to have to submit your project. All this information will be sent to you after the stream, and by the time you need to submit your solutions. Something of them are already listed. So you need to have your demo, you need to have your project description, and of course, you need to have your presentation and project pitch for us to see what you actually built during the 7 days. And one more important thing, that your presentation shouldn't be longer than 5 minutes, so we can easily check all the project very carefully. Okay, I'm really talking for so long, and I really want to invite already speakers to the stage, because we have really amazing speakers this time. And we have Tom with us, Tom Masson. Tom is the CTO at Stability.AI, if I'm not mistaken, right, Tom?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Perfect. You will have your story time. Sorry for taking so much time on explaining all the details, but I hope you will enjoy the talk as well.
Cool. Thank you. Can you see my screen? Is that working? Make sure. Is that working?
It is.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you for organising the hackathon. First of all, it's awesome to see loads of people here, and I'm really excited to see what's going to get created over the next few days. So yeah, I'm Tom. I'm CTO at Stability. My job is to look after all of the engineering and platform development that we're doing to bring all of the models and wonderful research that the company's doing to developers like yourselves, to companies, and just generally to make this creative technology available to everyone. So I'm going to give you a few quick slides on Stability, tell you a bit about what we're about and who we are, and then I'll hand over to the next speaker. So we've got three kind of technology pillars in the company: research, which is the team that's developing all of the models, the foundation models that you're seeing, like Stable Diffusion, working on the process that we go through to create that, from labeling to training and evaluation. We have our applied ML team that's working on taking those models and making them even better with fine tuning and taking all kinds of additional data, reinforcement learning, and applying that to those existing foundation models. And then engineering, which is all of the API, all of the high performance cluster and data teams underneath that are helping to make sure that the rest of the company is able to function and train. And the API obviously is to bring that to the wider audience. So it's been a pretty incredible 9 months since Stability kind of exploded onto the scene with Stable Diffusion. And this is really the beginning. When we launched Stable Diffusion, the inference time for an image was around about 5 seconds. So that was 5 seconds on like an A100 or A40. And we've just seen that time go right down to now, like, people able to infer at like 1 second for an image, and similar kind of reduction in time for other types of modality. And that's because the models are getting more lightweight, the inference methods are getting more efficient with better samplers and optimization techniques that we're using on things like the API, which you'll be using to compile the models and make them much quicker. So Stability.AI our kind of whole ethos is around open source. All of our models that we train in research will become open source. Stable Diffusion is a great example of that. We've got loads of variants of Stable Diffusion, which I'll talk a little bit about now. We've got loads more coming, some really exciting models coming up over the next month or two. And then other models as well outside Stable Diffusion, like Deep Floyd, OpenClip through Lion, Eluther with our language models, and other things. So some of the things that we make, Stable Diffusion, you will have heard of. Deep Floyd is another image model that we're going to be releasing very, very soon in the next few weeks, hopefully. We're developing a chat model, Stable Chat, which is based upon a range of stable language models, which we're going to be open sourcing. And then we have divisions working on music, text to video, and text to 3D. And you're going to see all of these coming out this year. Stable Music, we've got a whole division called Harmony. They've got a Discord. Many of our groups started out, as Discord communities, groups of people just like yourselves working on cool projects, trying to take academic papers, turning them into, research training projects. Stability then providing the compute for that. Stable Music's one of those. Harmony is the Discord community. They're training loads of different models that are able to generate music, generate audio, both short form and long form. And we've got some really exciting stuff coming up there. Stable Video, I'm going to talk about our animation API, but then also we have a video diffusion model that we're training at the moment, and a whole new team working on that, and we'll be more information coming up with that soon. And then Stable 3D, some of you might be familiar with things like Dream Fusion, taking images from the Stable Diffusion API or Stable Diffusion model, and then using Nerf to transform them into real 3D objects. So working on every domain. And it's all about the community. So we've got an incredible community that's emerged from Stable Diffusion. We've got the Discord Stable Diffusion community, which are now over 150,000 members. We've got a huge Reddit community, 125,000 subscribers. The Stable Diffusion GitHub is like huge, 52,000 stars. Obviously, Hugging Face is a big element of that, with all of our models being hosted Hugging Face. And then things like the Stable Diffusion diffusers pipeline, and the other kind of code libraries that Hugging Face is developing. So huge community being developed there. Deep Floyd, a little bit on Deep Floyd, which is our upcoming model, which is going to be based on Google Imagen. This is in just getting prepped for open source release at the moment, and can generate text. It generates at 1024 natively. It's a cascaded diffusion model with 3-stage inference from a 64-stage first inference, and then upscalers taking it up to higher resolution. So super exciting model coming up soon. I'm going to hand you a bit later on to Connor from the API team, who's going to be giving you a bit of information about the platform site. The platform site is something we developed with all of the documentation around the API. It's got SDKs, TypeScript, Python, language support, different interfaces for gRPC and REST, and then obviously all the support for the different features in the API, from in-painting to upscaling and all the other things there. We'll also be supporting the animation API in the platform. This allows you to take images and then interpolate prompts over time and generate animation, transformed images in different kinds of transforms, from 2D to 3D, and different methods there. And looking forward to seeing what people can do with that. And then obviously fine tuning is a big element of what people can do. So interested to see what people do with fine tuning, taking a set of input images and then putting subjects or objects or even styles as concepts into the model. So adding your own personalization to the model. Obviously a really powerful feature. And then we've got integrations that we've been working on. So some of you will have seen the Blender integration. We've also got integrations with Photoshop and Google Workspace. These are getting a lot of popularity, and great to see adoption of the API into different platforms. Dream Studio, something that Connor himself worked very hard on over the last few months, is our kind of UI to the models. And we just launched a new version of that. So you can go there and check it out if you want a really easy interface just to generate images and test some prompts. You can try the new Excel model, which will be available obviously in the API for this hackathon. Excel is our latest model. It's about 4 times bigger than the original Stable Diffusion. It's a 2.3 billion parameter model. It's aesthetically conditioned, so you're going to get like beautiful images out of the box with the model. It's easier to prompt, so you don't need these huge 2 or 3 sentence prompts to get nice images out. So yeah, it's a really great model, and this is our kind of first release of that, which we're just previewing in the API, and then we'll be releasing an open source version in the next month or 2 as we get to a state with it where we're happy to put it out. Just a couple of examples of some of the things that you can do with the different Stable Diffusion models. So we have a depth to image model. This takes a grayscale image representing a depth image, and then you can use that to condition the output to maintain structure in the output, which is a super cool feature. That's just an example of that being used to generate using different prompts, but maintaining the structure of the input. Then obviously other examples wouldn't be replete without our founder Imad. This is taking his image, getting a depth extraction from that with a depth model with something like Midas or Adabins, and then using that depth extraction to then use the depth to image model to generate images in the same structure as an input image. So that's a nice little pipeline that connects 2 or 3 different models together. Obviously, in painting is another great example where you can take an image and then mask certain parts of it and replace content using a prompt, but retain the other parts of the image. So that's a really powerful technique that we're seeing lots of examples of in different industries, and I'm sure some of you will be using that in the hackathon. And then there's just some examples of like what Stable Diffusion can do. Taking Game of Thrones, but wanting to see it in the form of Japanese drama. So these are just a couple of images of that idea, which is a pretty cool thing. So it's great for storytelling, concepting, ideation. People love using it in film production pipelines to help them make storyboards more quickly. Storyboards is something that I love, and the idea of using Stable Diffusion as something that powers more quickly the process of storytelling is super cool. And then just my sort of last slide, what we're seeing with Stable Diffusion, especially being driven by the open source community, is more controllability. So we've come from a very well known paradigm of using text to guide the model, and now we're seeing things like ControlNet or T2I, the adapters from Tencent, which allow you to control through different kinds of adapters from depth, but also pose, getting the edges from images, lots of different ways of controlling the output of the model. And when you combine that not just with image generation, but with animation, you get some super powerful ways to generate completely new styles of content and control them much more precisely. So hopefully we'll see some examples of that being used as well. So the future of creativity is already here, but the people that have really driven this whole thing forward has been the community. It's been people like you working, on Reddit and Discord, and these incredible communities that have, supported groups of people coming together to do incredible things. It's amazing to see. I'm sure you're all watching Twitter every day and the incredible things that are being created. Our job at Stability is to make the foundation for that and build all the research that can be then given away to people like yourselves that can do incredible things with it, taking it to market, but also just using it for creative enjoyment and just for enjoying the magic of image generation and just generative AI in general. So I hope you all have an amazing week. It's been great to be involved in this hackathon. Thank you to LabLab for organizing it. You guys have done an incredible job. Thank you to everyone that's involved, and good luck. I hope you create some incredible things, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Tom, for joining us today and for talking about Stable Diffusion and its advantages for people. And I want to move on to the API itself to talk how they can use it and maybe to give us some idea how it works. So Corner, I see that you're waiting for a long time to be able to jump on the stage. We are super excited as well to hear you. Happy you're with us. Oh, you are muted.
There we go. Hello. Can you hear
Hi
me?
there. Yes, we can.
Cool. What I'm going to do right now is show everyone a little bit about what's available in the API and how to get set up with it as fast as possible. This is Dream Studio. This is where you can actually test out, using the API. Everything here is being powered by the API. So all of these features, all the things you're seeing here are, they're things you will be able to do by using this API. So there's quite a lot of interesting stuff. Variations is one of them. I can click here and take an image and generate, variations from it. I can adjust image strength. I can adjust sizes. Have positive and negative prompts. There's quite a lot you can tweak and do with the APIs. So one more thing I'll show you real quick is this is our kind of test site where we play with new features. This is the new editor that's coming out pretty soon. You can go to the URL up above if you want to mess around with it before it's fully out. But yeah, you can build really complicated stuff on top of the API I'm going to be showing you. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to take you first to the platform site. And this is kind of going to be your hub for anything you want to know that's possible through this API, just kind of about the things that run in our systems. There are ways to run Stable Diffusion locally, of course, because it's an open source model. But if you're wanting to get any of the stuff you just saw, image generation, all of those features into an app as quickly as possible, we have got a number of ways to do that via these APIs. That's just quite easy to use. So let's just jump straight into it. I'm going to talk mostly about the REST API we have. We also have a gRPC API. And I'm going to share a Postman collection right when I'm done presenting here that you can use to get this all up and running in Postman. But the biggest thing you're going to need to know to get started is once you have a Dream Studio account, so you'll log in here, you can go to your account page and then see API keys. Thank goodness we asterisk those. But yeah, you create yourself some keys, and that's pretty much all you need. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that one and just actually show you guys how this works. So we're going to do the most simple thing to start out. Just generate an image from some text. So all of this, all of these parameters, all of the stuff you're seeing here in Postman is something I'll be able to share with you via this Postman collection. So if you have Postman, you just can open this file up. I'll share a link in the chat as soon as I'm done presenting. So there's a number of endpoints you'll see. So you can see your user balance, your account. But the ones almost certainly you're going to be more interested in are in the text to image, image to image, masking, and upscaling endpoints. With those, you can do quite a lot of stuff. So let's actually generate an image. This is a classic prompt. Let's do something fun, like, I don't know, frog in a forest. So what you're going to need to do to actually run this is copy and paste a key. I'm going to have to delete this key after the presentation. Don't burn through all my credits. So once you have that key posted in here, it just works. The nice thing about this this Postman environment for testing is that you can actually pull out all of the API examples. You can go over here on the side and just say, okay, if I want to see that in JavaScript, if I want to see it in curl, it's just under the hood, just normal API calls against REST APIs. So once you have got something working in Postman you like, you can just basically copy and paste the code and immediately put this in your front end app. So there's a lot of features here. There's like breadth too. So if I wanted to do like in painting, I would use image to image and I would use masking. And that's going to get a little bit more tricky. So I'm going to be around for this whole hackathon. If anyone wants to do features that I'm not presenting here, I'm really not going to go beyond text to image. You can just hit me up directly. So I'll be available. for any of the more complicated things you might end up wanting to do. But in general, yeah, you should be able to just basically get up and running as soon as you have yourself an API key and are interacting with Postman. Last thing I'll show you is that the actual platform site is pretty extensive in its documentation. So even if you're not using Postman, you can come here and see request examples for any of these, any of the various things you can do in the API, and it details all of the settings, what they do, all of the rules about what you can ask for. This is a really good resource if you are trying to understand like how you use the API and interact with it. And hopefully you'll find it pretty easy to use. So I'm really interested in seeing what things people like about this, what they think can be improved. We'll take all of that feedback and all of that advice and see what we can do with it. The last thing I'm going to mention here is our gRPC API. We do have some features that are a little bit more advanced that are only accessible through gRPC. I'm not going to go through the time of explaining how to interact with that currently, but if you are interested in using the gRPC API, you can either reach out to me directly or read through the docs here. There's a couple of things that it enables you to do that aren't in the REST API, but I think for the vast majority of people, the REST API is going to be what you want to use for a whole number of reasons. So that is about all I think you'll need to get started. I'm going to share a link to this Postman collection as soon as I'm done presenting here. Actually, let me just drop that in the chat right now, and you can get off and running. So again, the first thing you're going to have to do is just get into your Dream Studio account. And I'm going to go ahead and delete these since I exposed them on my screen here. And copy paste those into Postman and off you go. So yep, again, I'll be around throughout the hackathon if you have questions. Feel free to reach out directly for help, especially if you're doing some of the more interesting and advanced stuff. It can get a little tricky to know what all these models and endpoints do, but we'll be around.
I do have one question from the chat, and there are a lot of numbers. I hope you will get that. Is it better to generate 12 or 768 with Stable Diffusion 21.1768?
21.1768. Let me read that. I think each model has a little bit of a different flavor to it. For SDXL, 512, 512 seems to work really well. Upscaling is something that is a really good strategy. So instead of generating a big image, you start with a smaller one and then upscale it. For each individual model, there's slightly different parameters you'll find work better or worse because they've learned different things. So just play with it. If you are working with a model and have Postman open, just tweak the settings. Find out what works best for you. The nice thing about these the REST API is that you can basically run all of this without any backend whatsoever. If you just have a front end calling out to the API, you can make an app that doesn't even really need a backend. I will say something I wanted to mention is about API keys. I guarantee you somebody here is going to accidentally leak their API key. It's just something you need to watch out for. Don't commit your keys to GitHub. Don't put your keys in the source code of the client app that's on your front end. You either have to ask the user to enter their key or you need a backend that hides it. So, worst case scenario, if you have a bunch of credits, your key gets leaked, somebody's going to drain them. That'll be a big bummer, but be very careful not to expose those keys. And this is the same for any API.
All right, one more question. Can we use control net models and settings when we call from the API?
There's no control net in the API currently. So stuff like that you might have luck with on, I think there's some Hugging Face spaces and on Replicate. I saw some APIs for that, but the API we have doesn't support that currently.
All right, and I have one more question regarding limitations. Do you have some location restrictions for using of the API?
I think it is globally enabled, and if that is not the case and you're if you're being blocked for any reason, just let me know in case Cloudflare might be overly onerous or something. Just let us know. But I believe it'll be available anywhere.
Perfect. Thank you for answering the questions. And I just want to tell once again that all the mentors will be available on the platform on our Discord. So feel free to add them on specific Stability.AI channel. And let's move on to the next talk. Thank you so much, Corner, for helping us with figuring out how API works. And we have Scott here. Scott, I'm super happy to have you here. And we will have Scott and Adam on the same talk, right?
Sure.
Perfect. Great. So guys, without further ado, I'll just pass in words to you. I'm super happy you're joining us. I know how great things you're making, and I just really want you to share it yourself.
Well, we're happy to be here. So it's been a few months, and the world has changed so much so quickly for all of us. I mean, the last hackathon, the things you guys created were just mind-blowingly cool, and like watching the whole thing unfold. I was amazed at what you made and super proud of some of the things that were created. I have some favorites, obviously, some of the ones that I was cheering for, but I'm really happy with all the ones that won as well. I think the creativity and the diversity of all the different solutions is just amazing. Adam, do you have anything to throw on that?
I've been working primarily on animation. I know that now that the API has become available in a limited capacity to some people, some people who are already building things to do image generation and exposing that to a large number of customers are also doing that. Moving on to animation, either feeding in video input or having in some init image and going from there, flying the camera around a bit, or just totally going freeform with the text. Now that people are going to get more access to that, I assume it's going to get a lot more crazy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I wanted to talk about a couple of the solutions I saw last time that were my personal favorites and just kind of talk about why I really liked them. Because it wasn't so much the functionality, I think, is the reach of what it does. So for those of you who don't know, I was here on your last hackathon. So I am I'm the guy who breaks things. I'm the quality assurance guy at Stable Diffusion, or Stability. So I work on all the different things that are going to be client facing. And now, like Connor and I work together a lot on Dream Studio and a lot of other projects internally. So anything that needs to be QA'd, that comes through me, and then I break it. I'm kind of the guy who's annoying in the company because I break things consistently, and that's my job. And once I can't break anything, then we know it's running well, and then we should release it to the public. So that's kind of what I do. So when I see different solutions you guys have posted, and there's certain things like, wow, this reached a really nice level of polish for how quickly you did it, is just amazing to me. And they're all the teams did a great job on it. But we have my favorites, and I want to talk briefly about those and why I love them, and get feedback from you guys and hopefully motivate or demotivate you away from ideas maybe you had that you're like, oh, maybe we should change this a bit. So just again, my 2 cents. So I've been in the software industry for almost 30 years. So that's a long time. I'm as old as rope. And I want to kind of give some of that advice to you. So some of the ones I really loved here, the two that really jumped out to me are almost on the same idea. And that was Sherlock's Phoenix and where was the other one in here? The forensic AI. So both of these were more along the lines of helping identify, say, people, like especially the forensic one. So we're going to give a sketch of somebody who committed a crime or a perpetrator of some sort, and then help identify who that person was. And I look at the reach and the creativity of that solution as to how it helps the world, and help us identify the problem cases and track them down. And that was just, I thought, a really refreshing use of the technology. So totally motivated. Love that one. And Sherlock one is very similar, a little bit bigger reach to it. But I think the forensic AI one spoke more to me just because it was more focused. But I think if given more time, I think the Sherlock one actually has more of a lead. So it's like a really interesting push-pull you guys have created there. But all of these ones had so many great ideas. And I'm looking forward to watching these unfold. But one of the things I wanted to bring up was to talk about I call it the legs of an application. It's how fast it can go, how far it can go. So when you're building your application, think about its audience, its intended audience. Is your intended audience 100,000 people, 10,000 people, or 1 million people? For example, if you're making a solution that's just for law enforcement, for example, can it be expanded to be used by other agencies that need a similar functionality that is not going to be pervasive? So as you're making these solutions, kind of think about if you simply were to genericize it a bit, can you get a much longer or much larger industry appeal or across vertical modalities or different areas of different industries? So as you're working on your solution, try not to typecast it too much. I think that helps sell to win the competition, but when it comes to the actual solution, I think that you're going to find that it does much better if it can be even white boxed into different vertical markets without much of a change. So something to consider. Um, I'm also a big fan of subject matter experts. Now, you only have 7 days to do this, actually less, if you think about all the different things you've got to get done. But if you could seek out someone in that vertical market that you're trying to work with and get subject matter expertise in there, especially early on, I think you're going to find that you have a much more compelling solution, especially if you're in the, say, the front end part of the application. So I'm a big believer of you risk drive schedule things. So your riskiest part of the application is the thing you do first. Prove to your team that you can do it, even if it's ugly, but it can be done. Then make it pretty in the end and wrap it up and put a bow on top of it. But that person, what they could be doing in that meantime is getting that subject matter expertise in early, so your solution has more of an industry adoption once it's released. Because that's the idea too. I mean, even if you don't win the hackathon, you've created a solution that you would want to potentially market and get out there. So you want to make sure that it's something the market actually wants. And if you're not experts in that given field, which you're probably not, you need to have that expertise in order to help sell it. So it's just something to consider in there. Adam, I'll throw it to you for a second. I'm doing all the talking here.
No, that's great. As I said, I've primarily been working on animation. I haven't been looking at as much at what people have been doing with the current API as much. So I'm just kind of here to say that beyond what you're seeing present in the API right now that you're able to develop with immediately, there's going to be more and more that's coming. And so the progress that you make with it so far isn't wasted because it's more is coming that you can build upon with the. Connor was hinting that there's more capabilities that we kind of have available models that, and some of that's going to become available in the API.
Yeah, this whole industry is like a fire hose. There's always something coming out, a new paper coming out, and then someone internally is going, "Ooh, let's write this," and then that team is dispatched and starts writing on things. So I think you're going to see a flood of new API capabilities. I mean, even the REST capability is somewhat new compared to the gRPC. So you're going to see this flood of things that are coming. And if you're looking for models and what's hinting at models, you have Discord bots. So we have Discord bots that are up, but more importantly, you have Dream Studio, which is available for you to try, test ideas, test prompt or theory in there. Your prompt engineering should start with Dream Studio, in my opinion, because it's super easy to use. Throw some stuff at it, and it's using the exact same API that you're going to be using in your solution. So you've got a lot of leeway to test things out and to run theories past things. Now, we do have other adapters and other models that are coming out. Unfortunately, they're not done yet to the point where we want to roll them out. Because we've got to go through QA and other processes internally to make sure that everything is what we want it to be when it hits the world there. So if you have any questions or anything on that, feel free to throw it in the chat. I will be around all week. So if you have questions on things and you just want another opinion and another set of eyes, I'm around. Feel free to hit me up on Discord, and I'm happy to help. Again, I'm not going to be your technical call. That's going to be Connor and his team, and especially your mentor. So if you need help, use that mentor hookup that they have here for LabLab. That is an amazing resource. You need to make sure you use it if you get stuck or you need help on something. So get a subject matter expert and use your mentors. But the other thing I wanted to bring up too is when you're working on your solution, you're going to obviously do some quick research if you haven't already to figure out kind of what you want to do. Make sure you know your competitors and their capabilities. And I have a phrase I say all the time, and that is make yourself equal before you make yourself unique. So if you come up with a really great, unique thing, but you don't solve the base reason for it existing, no one's going to be interested in the product. So make sure that whatever you're creating, you're equal to the competition available now before you become unique. Everybody wants to be unique, like a photographer. Everybody's got a camera now. So if you want to be a better photographer, you have to find ways to make your photography stand out. But if you can't take a decent picture to start with, don't worry about trying to make yourself unique because nobody's going to want your pictures. So this is an interesting thing. Are there any questions that have popped up that we can field?
I'm checking it right now, but I still see that it's more tech-specific questions. Guys, if you maybe have some questions regarding your idea concept to Scott or to Adam, feel free to ask right now, and I will be more than happy to read, but you will not have that much time.
Well, Adam might be able to help with some of the technical questions depending on what they are as well.
Okay.
In the meantime, I can say that also Connor hinted at a little bit that you can just basically deal with making the front end and then hit our back end with all the requests. The fact that we have it scaled up on a cluster is hugely valuable. Like just at a technical level, that's a really good thing to not have to deal with. So yeah, that's. I think
We have one question I really want to ask you, and the person asks, how do you train the model itself and how it can be used in pharmacy sector? Maybe you have some ideas already.
How to train the model. Well, I guess from I don't know if that means like how Stability.AI itself train the model, or if this is
Probably
kind
so,
of
yeah.
we're looking for advice on maybe fine tuning or starting from scratch to train a model.
In case you can specify, guys, the one that wrote the message, please do so, and it will be better for us to talk. But I see that it's in general about Stable Diffusion.
Yeah, if I get more into the technical details, I guess the thing that kind of distinguishes Stable Diffusion from the others is the fact that it's latent diffusion. So, it's predicting noise in latent space instead of image space, which adds to the complexity, you could say. But fortunately, Robin is with Stability AI and is familiar with all the components that went into that and was able, well, and others, Andreas Blattman and their collaborators. The Leon data set was important for that as well. A huge amount of image data with corresponding text. But I think people who want to look into this, there's a lot written up on this. And I guess I can mention that whenever people are asking to really, really understand this, rather than just have like a superficial view of it, Ahmad, our CEO, always recommends go into fast.ai if you really want to get into the technical aspects of it and do it.
I have one more question. Could you ask, it's for me, okay, how we could leverage the API for performing fine-tuning?
How do we use the API for fine-tuning? Yeah, at the moment, my understanding is that the API isn't geared towards fine-tuning. We'll see if we end up having that later on. Yeah, that's kind of how it is right now.
Yeah, I believe that is coming soon. It's definitely something we're working on, but its release date is unknown at this time.
Okay, and there was one more question. How do you expect us to include API into our projects? I mean, what criteria will you consider when evaluating the AI component of our project specifically? That's you mentioned just the best projects, the examples. Maybe you have some tips on this, but I don't think that it's something specific needs to be, right? So it just took the creative way to use the model, and in way it will solve real world problems. Maybe you have something to tell on top of this.
Yeah, there's an infinite amount of ways to use these things. I'm really excited to see what you come up with. I think some of the teams have like an inkling of where they want to go with it. Have some ideas, some rough ideas, but from everything that has been mentioned, as well as looking at the past projects, everything from like storyboarding to interactive with a client of some sort, be it like the dating app was a very interesting idea. There's all these different areas. It's really a huge universe of ways that this can be implemented. So I'm excited to see where they go. I don't have any specific direction or hints on something I think would be astounding. I'm really big on the ones that change the world, I guess is the way you want to put it. Like, Imad, our CEO, he's trying to change the world by making these open source and making them available to people and creating something that's available for everyone. And I think that solutions that kind of cater to that are the ones that we're going to be most interested in. But I mean, that could take any possible form. Who really knows? And I'm excited to see where they go with it. As I said, I watched it last time. I stuck on Discord and I hung around and I watched the feeds, and it was really great to see what's going on. Now, fast forward so many months later, and all this technology is so much more advanced than it was before. And give it a month, and I think we're going to be saying the same thing over and over again. This is just moving so quickly. Yeah, who knows? I mean, I'm interested to see what you do with it. It's a creative block in some ways, because it looks like it's very simple, but I mean, just look at what happened last time. So many great ideas behind these.
Exactly. Thank you for summarizing that. That I would really say go creative as possible, as long as it's useful and it can be accessible for people and really to help solve some problems. And thank you so much, Scott, for this talk, and Adam for joining us today and giving some examples of best projects. I'm super happy to have you on Discord through whole event so people can access you and can ask the questions they have, because I see that you have actually, guys, a lot of questions. We do not have time on the stream to ask all of them. So feel free to use Stability.AI channel on our Discord to do so. And I want to answer a very common asked question regarding usage of Vercel and Redis. So yeah, Redis is a side quest. It's not obligatory to use it for the event, but you will get additional prize in the end of few events through all the projects that used Redis for their project itself. So like it was like one of the technology you used. So it's a side quest. It's not obligatory. The same with Vercel. Vercel is additional point for people that will be building projects, but it's not obligatory to use. We faced this issue on the previous hackathon where technology that was complicated and not very easy to understand or easy to incorporate were obligatory, and it was difficult for people to build projects. So this time it's not obligatory, but it's just additional point for you to win the hackathon itself. All right, and now I'm super happy and excited to invite Jacques to the stage. Personally, your fan, and we are checking on our LabLab team your LinkedIn profile with all the latest updates on Stable Diffusion. I guess it's the second page we're checking after Stability.AI itself. And I'm super happy that you decided to join us today. And we will have a workshop from Jacques regarding creating and visualizing stories with ChatGPT and Stable Diffusion XL model, which means that you will learn how to make the images in the same style and make it happen to create stories out of just the amount of images. Jacques, happy to have you here. Say a few words for us so we will hear that you're with us.
Thank you. I'm there. Hi.
Hello.
Wonderful. Can I start? I'm not sure if my...
I do.
Now, perfect.
Mhm.
Okay, so thank you for having me. Thank you for being here, and I'm looking forward to show you a little bit of how to create and visualize a story with ChatGPT and Stable Diffusion XL. My name is Jacques Galomo. I'm the founder of Creamlabs AI, and I'm looking forward to this small session. Just a short and small disclaimer: I'm no developer, so this is going to be a manual labor, human-based labor. But of course, you can feel free to automate it in any way you want, because the possibility is, of course, there. So. Just a small glimpse and a little bit of self-promotion. The images you are seeing here are created with our own image generation model, Cream AI. And Cream AI is targeting agencies and marketers, so creative professionals who want to create high-quality images with a different kind of interface, an optimized interface, especially for the workflows and day-to-day work of creative professionals. And of course, this is all powered by Stable Diffusion. So a big thanks and shout out to Stability AI and to the whole team for making this possible for us to create this product for the creative community. We are in closed beta, but if you want to try it out and want to see how our interface works, how we generate images, feel free to sign up on creamai.de. And as I mentioned before, it's for creative agencies. We won't be open in the future. And so it's just for corporate clients. So please, if you sign up, use your corporate email address. That's it. But enough of the self-promotion. Just one last slide. Of course, we do image generation. We provide video tutorials. We provide workshops. And as you can see here, the most important part for today, we also plan on integrating an automated storyboard creation workflow. Basically the same thing I want to talk about today. So I'm opening up for the community to use let's start. So what do we want to do today? You want to create a story, and you don't want to write it ourselves. We want to use, of course, a GPT-4 for that. But we also want to visualize that story, and we will use Stable Diffusion XL for that. And of course, if you want to have a story that is visualized for every scene, we need a constant and consistent style for this. So let's start, right? So first things first, how can we achieve this? We will start with creating the style first. So here, our first step, creating the style. Then we will switch over to ChatGPT, create the story, then create scenes, the plot, and the actions in each scene, fitting to the story, and then creating a prompt. And this prompt will also use our prompt we created before. So we will combine our Stable Diffusion prompt with a prompt that is fitting and connected to the scenes and the plot and the action. And then we will visualize all of this manually, hard labor with Stable Diffusion XL, and create a storyboard finally for our story. So let's start up and create that style, right? Okay, so I'm switching over to Dream Studio. Here's Dream Studio. I already played a little bit around with Stable Diffusion XL, and I really enjoyed trying it out. It works good with short prompts, but it also works pretty well with long prompts. And as you can see here, my jumping astronaut looks pretty crisp, so nice one. But for the today's story, I want to think about I want to create something different, something in another style. Let's say we want to create something in a comic book style and the style of a Western cyberpunk direction. So I prepared a short prompt just to test it out. So vector Western cyberpunk style, nothing else. Let's prompt this real quick. Let's generate this real quick and see what Stable Diffusion XL would generate for us and will generate for us. And here are the images. They are looking fine, of course, since we didn't specify anything. We didn't specify the person, the action, the scenery. They are pretty different, but they're also different in kinds of visual style, like the colors and even the style itself. So I think we can optimize this a little bit. So let's try it out and use a different prompt. So I will copy it in here. Here's the second prompt: Western cyberpunk inspired by digital art, Western comic style. So this is a little bit more precise because I add a little bit more descriptors here. Let's generate this as well. And we will see that now that since we have a little bit more of a description side in there, the style will be more consistent. It's not perfect, but it's more consistent. Now we have this black lines everywhere, which are, of course, interesting for this comic book style, but I'm not happy with this one right now. I think we can try something different because I saw an image of a few hours ago I really liked, and but I don't have the prompt for this. So what can I do? I can, for example, use Clip Interrogator 2.1. It's a model hosted on Hugging Face. You can just Google it and open it up. You don't need to log in or register to use this. And you can drop your image. This is the image I really enjoyed to see. You can drop your image in there and ask the system to create a corresponding prompt. So it will try to create a prompt that you can then drop into Stable Diffusion to create a similar image. And of course, we can up this here to give it more flavor. Click send, and now it will send it. As you can see, it will take about 1 minute, so that's a little bit long. I did this before, so I prepared something for you. This would be the result, and we see at the bottom here our prompt that the Clip Interrogator created for us. And let's use that prompt and try it out. So back to Dream Studio. I'm copying this prompt in here. You will see it right now. And I'll hit Dream, and we will see what happens. So, as I mentioned before, this prompt was not created by me. It was created by Clip Interrogator. And as you can see, these images are looking pretty similar. Let's prompt some more just to see if there's a really close similarity. And yeah, for my sake, I would say they are similar. Like, take a look at this and take a look at these. They are similar, right? And I will read the prompt for you. So the prompt is: a close-up of a person wearing a hat, a character portrait inspired by Magnus Norman, digital art, Western comic style, John Wick cartoon style, illustration, warm sundown, portrait of a rugged ranger, styling of Killian Eng, a handsome fan art. And what you will notice is that there are two artists in there, yes? And you all you all noticed, of course, that there's a big discussion about the ethical situation of using the names of artists and to copy their style by using their names. And it's important to, of course, talk about this. And for me, it's important to not copy, because I think it's boring. I want to create something for myself. But what can we do about these two artists? So let's just check out what their style is. And it's interesting because if you look at Magnus Norman, I searched for him and opened up his site. This is his site. And if you look at his art style, it has nothing to do, not at all, with the thing we want to create. So as you can see, for me, I have no problem with using his name because there is no similarity whatsoever. I cannot copy his style with the prompt I created or clip interrogator created for us. So for me, it's fine to use. It would be fine to use his name. Yeah. Let's head over to our second artist. The second artist is Kilian Eng. And I found his Instagram channel just to check him out as well. And as you can see here on his Instagram channel, it's completely different style of art. So it has nothing to do with what we are trying to create. So I'm guessing that Stable Diffusion would pull some of his characteristics out, but he would not copy the whole style. So from my perspective, it would be fine to use both of the names. But to be honest, I don't think that we need both of them. So let's optimize this prompt a little bit more. So what I do and what I did was deciding on a color, because as we just saw here, the color is a little bit consistent, but not that much. We can make it better, right? So I decided to add purple, orange, punk, atmosphere, bright light to make sure that we always have the same kind of color atmosphere in the generations. I decided to double down on the sundown. It wasn't the created prompt, but I really wanted to make sure that we have a sundown in almost every scene, because the sundown is also generating a strong atmospheric output. And for character consistency, I decided to go with John Wick. Yeah? So he won't be in the prompt as itself, but he will be in the story. So we have a consistent character over all our generated scenes. And sorry, Magnus, I will throw you out. I don't think that we need two artists in our prompt. We will just use one artist. That would be enough. Of course, you can, if you want, to use a negative prompt to optimize the image generation process to show the system what you don't want to see. For example, since I want to have a comic style, I don't want to see a 3D render. I don't want to see a sketch or something messy. We can use this, but we don't have to. We will try it without the negative prompt, but we can try it out later with the prompt. Okay, so, and the result of my changes, was that the final style is this one here. Western cyberpunk inspired by digital art, Western comic style, cartoon style illustration, warm sundown, style of Kilian Eng, purple, orange, punk, atmosphere, and bright light. And what does the X stand for here? The X stands for the scene, which we later will integrate with ChatGPT, because currently this is just the style prompt, right? And we will try out this style. That's one of the most important things. If you have, for example, a prompt you think could work, you have to try it out. So here's an example. As you can see, we have landscape, Western, cyberpunk, the prompt we already know. And the result is a pretty consistent style here. And let's try it out as well. So let's go back to Dream Studio. Let's write landscape, try it out live. Enter our prompt here. That's separated with a comma real quickly. So I hope this is on the right spot. Yes, and hit dream and just create something. We can, of course, try out, let's say, a city. Let's also say, for example, let's say a tiger, yeah? A tiger, because you have to try out your prompt style with different subjects, different scenes, just to see if the adding multiple, for example, new information to the prompt will change the style. And as you can see here, we still have John Wick in here, so that shouldn't be the case. We should have to throw him out of our style prompt, because it's, of course, the style prompt without him. And otherwise he will, as you can see here, just flood the images. Let's try out the tiger again. And of course, we could, for example, say an astronaut as well. We've saw an astronaut before, so let's write astronaut jumping on Mars, like this, for example. And so what we're trying to achieve is we are trying to make sure that our style stays consistent no matter what kind of image and scenery or action we want to create. And as you can see here, as I scroll up and down, this is similar, right? This is great. And we don't even use the SDXL styles. We can, of course, for example, use the enhanced style. I can try it out again with the enhanced style just to see if we can enhance our visual output, but we don't have to. And I really like to work without it, because if I work without style enhancers, which can be useful, by the way, I think I have the most of the control over the model, because I don't know for now, but it's a question for you guys at Stability, how these enhancers really work in the background. So since I don't know it, I will try to not use them. But as you can see, they have an impact. And but now we have a style. We have seen that the style stays consistent here. We have thrown out John Wick. And the next step would be then to jump to ChatGPT for the story time, okay? And when we jump to ChatGPT, we want ChatGPT to create a story for us. And of course, since we don't have so much time, I made it short. So please, this is the prompt. Please just create a 2-paragraph short cyberpunk western story with a showdown. It should have one main character, cyber cowboy John Wick, played by Keanu Reeves, and add a shocking twist at the end. So this is my our short prompt for today. Let's switch over to GPT-4 here. As you can see, we chose GPT-4 for this. And let's drop in the prompt here. Of course, what you could do is you could, of course, just ask your users to fill in, for example, certain parts of this prompt. Let's say, for example, this element with the showdown, the cyberpunk western story. This is also something your users could enter here. So let's enter, and now we have to wait, because sadly GPT-4 is a lot slower than GPT 3.5, so it takes a little bit of time, but I will fill that time with reading a little bit of that story. So, under the crimson sky of a dying sun, the dusty streets of Neo Tombstone were deserted, save for the lone figure of cyber cowboy John Wick. His boots made a mutated crunch on the gravel as he walked, the servos on his cybernetic limbs wiring softly. The once thriving city had fallen to ruin under the relentless rule of the notorious outlaw gang, the Cyber Skull Raiders. John had come to settle the score, and the townsfolk cowered in their homes, anticipating the showdown that was about to commence. And this is basically the whole story. So this is very interesting to see how GPT-4 really creates this. Let's jump down to the finale. So the Cyber Skull leader approached the fallen hero, slowly lifting his helmet to reveal his face. John's eyes widened in shock as he stared into the face of his own brother, a man he had long beloved to be dead. The relation hit him harder than any bullet ever could. So basically, the showdown ended with the desired twist at the end. Somehow, he killed his own brother. Really sad. But this is our story now. So what can we do with our story? We can, of course, use a second prompt, which I will show you now. And this is this one, the table prompt. So let's change this story into a clean table with this one. And of course, it's a long prompt, so I have to read it for you. So perfect. Thank you, ChatGPT. Now create a table to display the story. Column 1 is for the scene number. You can cut the text at inappropriate parts to make more scenes. So giving ChatGPT the freedom to cut this text however it feels necessary. Column 2 is for the story, and column 3 is for the scene description, so our future prompt. This is important. The scene description will be an image generation prompt, which is comprised of this style description. First, start with the location, and always add the location, even if the location was mentioned before. It's important because every prompt should be complete. Add the camera angle and the action. Every time Wick or John Wick is mentioned, you will add his appearance like this. John Wick, Keanu Reeves, dressed in black, wearing a hat and black coat, white shirt. So for us to make sure that every time we prompt an image with Keanu Reeves, with John Wick, we have the same description for him. So he wears the same clothing, right? And of course, always end with this text. And now comes our style prompt. Western cyberpunk inspired by digital art, Western comic style, etc., etc. But in the end, after the bright light, if another character is mentioned, describe his appearance in short detail. And this is our now task for ChatGPT to do. So create 3 columns, one for numbering, one for the story, and one for the prompt. And of course, it's a little bit of a longer prompt, but it will work. Let's paste it in here. Let's just get rid of this small elements here. Don't think that we need those. Let's see if this works. So just a second. Yeah, here, perfect. So, and let's hit generate. And this will take some time now. Let's see so if this works. Okay, he's understanding, creating the table. Now we have, of course, the first scene. Now he will write the first part of the story and will decide on itself where he cuts here. And as we can see, he found his first cut. And now we get the scene description on the right-hand side. And I will read the scene description for you. Let's make it a little bit bigger so that you can read it as well. New Tombstone Streets, wide angle view, John Wick, Keanu Reeves, dressed in black, wearing hat, black coat, white shirt, working alone. And then we end with our style prompt. So this is basically our scene description, which was created by this part here. And the last part of this prompt is our style prompt here. And what we can do right now is just copy this while GPT-4 is writing the rest of the story. Go back to Dream Studio, paste it here, and test how this will look. Let's just not create 4, let's create 8 images. Let's create 8 more images, and we will see. So here he is, our lone wolf, looking good, just entering the city, basically. Here we see him. So now we can, of course, choose which kind of imagery we would like to use. And your users would ideally see all 8 or all 4 images and then just pick the one they want to use and then accept or, insert this picture into their storyboard. That would be their workflow. Let's check out the next one. So close up of John Wick, Keanu Reeves. Boots crunching gravel, servos in his cybernetic limbs, wiring, Western cyberpunk, inspired by digital art. Okay, let's try out this one. It's a difficult one because it's about his appearance. And you will see if this wall works. Okay. So, and this is basically the workflow you can do. Of course, automated, highly automated. And we see here he is. Here we have his work boots crunching gravel like it was described. Let's just check back. Here's the sentence from the story. His boots made a muted crunch on the gravel as he walked, the servos in his cybernetic limbs wiring softly. And we got exactly what we needed, the image of his boots. So wonderful. Let's check the next one. The once thriving city had fallen to ruin under the relentless rule of the notorious outlaw gang, the Cyber Skull Raiders. And of course, our prompt, panoramic view of the ruined Neo Tombstone city. Let's check this one out as well and generate some kind of 8 images. And we will see that, or I hope so, that we will see that these images also work pretty well. Always calm before the storm. And here we see the ruins of Neo Tombstone looking pretty great. And now you will see that these are all in the same style. So we are working on the right direction. It's working pretty much. And now we can move on and on and on. And the great thing is that here, as you can see, ChatGPT finished the whole complete story. It can happen that if you want to try this, you're running into a token limit and ChatGPT just stops mid-sentence somewhere here in one of the scenes, then just write continue, and it will continue and it will keep on prompting. So this is a possibility. Okay, but as you can see, this is basically the workflow. So finding a good prompt, optimizing that prompt for a multiple usage with different scenes, with different kind of objects, with different characters, and then using that to create your own visuals with, of course, the API in your case. So let's check this out. Here's the table I created just as a test in advance. And then, of course, the SD creation. So with SDXL, here were some of my tests. And of course, the storyboard. So here, this is an older version of this. as you can see here on the left-hand side, the story description. In the middle, the prompt that was automatically created, and on the right-hand side, the images that Stable Diffusion created for me for that story. So really interesting case, pretty fast to achieve. I would advise you, if you want to create a certain style, to really test the style out. So not just write one word and say, okay, that's fine, that's enough. Really test that style out, bring it to the limit, to create simple, small scenes, create big scenes, and really try to find especially the right spot where to place your scene prompt. So basically, this element here for your, let's see here, this one here for your style, because it can be at the beginning, of course, but it can also be in the middle or at the end. And I have another prompt for you. I will just throw it into here real quick so that you can see it. And it's basically the same at the beginning, but here I have the X. As you can see, the X in here, and this X is marked as the variable. And in the next part of the prompt, I am asking ChatGPT to insert the description of the scene where the X is. And so as a result, I can move this X to any part of my story. So basically on my prompt, for example, in the middle, if I want to have more weight on this initial description of the style. Of course, this is possible, but this will result in the description of the scene getting a little bit less weight. I tried this out, so if you move the X at the end, for example, the style would be better, but the description of the scene, so the action, the plot in the scene, would be a bit more difficult for the system to create. So you can move the scene around. And that's basically it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. If you want to try it out for now today, you can, of course, just prompt a style into the chat. Tell me what style we can try out. And if you have any questions, then ask them and we can try to solve them together. Of course, thank you for mentioning that I have a LinkedIn profile. So if you're interested, head over and follow me on LinkedIn, because I'm sharing insights on AI, generative systems, new technologies daily on my LinkedIn profile. So feel free to follow me there and be on the wave and getting all the information on the news on the day they are released. Okay, thank you, and I would love to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Frank. I really see that people are concerned about using John Wick for this. And they wrote that nobody can change the view of John Wick. So, but I don't think that it's concerned. They are just excited as well. It was really interesting to follow how you can, in 30 minutes, create a complete story, actually using just 2 of the AI tools. That's really awesome. And I'm trying to check all the questions. I didn't notice any specific for the talk itself. Guys, in case you have some questions to the talk, please feel free to write it right now, so we'll be able to ask them on the live stream. Okay, are there technical terms you can use for consistent results, or is it usually trial and error, or a case-by-case basis?
There are no technical terms for this, so it depends on the style you want to create. If you want to create, for example, a style that is highly realistic, you would need completely different terms than, for example, like this illustrated one. To make it easier for you to create, to find a right prompt, I would encourage you to use Clip Interrogator, really, to just throw in an image. For example, if you have, for example, like, let's say you have a movie scene you really like, you wanna try to get as close as possible to that movie scene. So then just make a screenshot, throw it into Clip Interrogator, see what comes out, throw this into Dream Studio here, and then you can try to optimize your prompt by getting rid of certain parts, adding certain parts. Always try to think about how you would describe the style to someone else, basically to another human, to a colleague of yours. How would you describe the style to a colleague? For example, does this movie have like a slight greenish atmosphere? I'm just thinking about the Matrix, the first Matrix movies, for example. It has like a slightly greenish atmosphere. There's a little bit of noise in there, and these descriptions, which you would use to describe this style to another human, you can as well throw them in here. But the art is to use as less words as possible, but to describe in the same moment as detailed as possible. Because if your scene description or a style description, sorry, if your style description gets too long and you add a scene to this, it can be difficult for the system, for the model to get everything right. So the shorter the style, the more the more attention will be on the scene itself. And that's why you should try to get the styles as short as possible. But of course, if you want to, for example, have a cinematic style, you can use words like cinematic, movie. You can even try to prompt into the direction of a certain movie. For example, let's say in the style of the movie Dune, for example, would be also possible. But it's basically, I would encourage you to try it out for yourself, to really think, how would I describe this picture if I would have to show it to someone, or if I wouldn't be able to show it to someone, but tell someone about the style of this picture, for example, over a phone. This is the way how you can work towards creating this perfect prompt for a style you can use many times.
One more question. I see that is it a good way using the comma to define styles before the subject in order to create storyboard?
It can help basically for yourself to just sort certain parts of the prompt into different, let's say, areas or parts. There's a big discussion about commas not being useful or commas being useful. I just saw this the comment that they are just basically noise. Basically, yes, but they change the style of the image. So if you don't use commas, the image will look different. So even if they are just noise, for me, I use them because it's much more easier for me to just separate certain parts of the prompt. But of course, you can prompt without commas points as well.
I guess it's even a very good question for people that are from Stability.AI still here on the call. Will commas really impact on the image style that will be generated? In case, guys, you are able to answer, sorry, feel free to do so. Okay, and one more question I want to ask. Do you have better results with conceptual description or concretes?
I think it depends on the model. Really depends on the model. There are models out there where you can, of course, feed the model with a lot of more of description, even full sentences. But I think in the end, it's not important if you use the one or the other. It's more important for you as a creator to understand how models in general work, and just to get a general understanding to then optimize your art of prompting regarding to the model you're using. So it's not just about learning this and just focusing on that one rule. It's more about getting a feeling of being adaptable to the rules the model creates for you. Basically, just getting to know their language.
Could you please once again repeat the name of the tool that helps you generate prompts?
Yes, sure. It's Clip Interrogator.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm sharing it once again in the chat, but it will be saved on our talk will be saved. So guys, you may just simply go and check once again. That's completely fine. Okay, and I have one last question really quick. I know that you are working very close with design. So how do you actually use Stable Diffusion model on your daily basis and on your work? If you use it, of course.
Of course, I'm using it. But for me currently, since we are focused mostly on Cream AI, so I'm not using it for projects, but just testing it daily and optimizing our styles, and of course our system daily to get better results. But as a creative, I currently use these models to test out ideas quickly, to just get rough sketches, rough iterations, to basically just pitch ideas, of course, try them out, optimize, and to get to from 1 to 100 quickly, more quickly than before. And here it's very helpful. Of course, I use them, for example, for creating the visuals for my LinkedIn prompts, LinkedIn posts, and there they are also very helpful. And I think the most important part is not about if you use them right now for example, client projects. It could be done, and there's a lot of companies out there who are already using AI-generated visuals for advertising campaigns, and that's fine, and that's the right direction. But I think that a lot of the models are not, they are really short before, just a few steps before prime time. So they're not perfect, but they're really almost perfect. And I think that when these models are perfect and you will start to use them, then it's too late. So all of you who are here today, congratulations, you did the right thing, really diving deep, using the models right now, because when the time has come that these models can be used really on a grand scale, on a daily basis, then you should have the experience already.
Exactly. Thank you so much for telling this. And I'm sure this talk and this tutorial will be extremely useful and the most viewed probably from today's session, except of the model tutorials, because even for me, it seems like very excited that you can create a full story, so it can be useful for project itself, as you can keep the specific style during the whole creation process. Thank you so much for joining us and for being with us here. And I'm sure you're available on LinkedIn, so people can connect with you after the stream as well.
Sure, of course. Feel free to connect me. Feel free to ask me also regarding the hackathon. I will try to answer any questions. And thank you for having me. Bye.
Thanks a lot, Jack. Thank you. Okay, and we are moving on to the Frank with his how I built this story. And I want to give us some background before we'll jump on the talk. So Cowork is a project that was created on one of our hackathons, and it was created very, I would say, very randomly, as all teammates met on Discord. They didn't know each other before, right? And the project was created during brainstorming sessions, so that weren't the idea of the startup they came here with. And they incorporated a few models, and for now they have really very great and complete project that can be used already for businesses, and they are continued their development after the hackathon. And if I'm not mistaken, you already graduated from Slingshot program, right? Or you are still on your way?
Correct. We're in the process of preparing for the upcoming cohort.
All right. So you are on the Slingshot program, which means that you are going to create your complete project, complete startup, and launch it into the market super shortly. And we are really interested in seeing the backend. So how it was created and what's on the backend of the project and what people can expect from this hackathon. So what is possible to build using Stable Diffusion model in your project, and Frank will be more than happy to share it with us. So the stage is yours.
Cool. Can you let me share my screen actually, or can you hear me and see me okay?
Yeah, of course. Of course,
Okay.
we can see you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invite. We are deeply appreciative of the Lab. We met during the Start an AI Startup Hackathon episode 1, I think it's called. So I'd just like to say also thank you to the prior speakers. A lot of helpful wisdom was shared here. I'll try not to repeat what the prior speakers talked about because we utilize a lot of what they talked about. I'll try to keep it pretty fresh. To compound what Jack was saying about Clip Interrogator, very helpful tool. We actually used it with Cowork. We utilized it though for in-painting. So if you're creating a mask of an image, you can actually utilize like a pre-processing layer with Clip Interrogator to figure out what you're trying to pinpoint in the image and then maybe replace the background or change a certain part of it. That's what we're using for Cowork. I'll actually share my screen and just get right into a couple pathways that I think are very helpful for everybody here in the hackathon to be aware of when it comes to utilizing these kinds of resources. So let me first open up Stability's docs here. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. But it was mentioned earlier.
Just a second, it's loading for me. Max, could you confirm that we can see it on the stream? Okay. Yeah. Let's maybe reload, or I guess we face the same issue that we had on the test run.
Okay. Let me see here. Let me try to reload the page here. Sorry about that.
Perfect for now.
Can you guys see the screen now? Okay, cool. So I'll touch on a couple things that the prior speakers talked on, and then I'll get right into like the deep kind of pipelines that we use at Cowork, and also that you can utilize to learn about how to kind of architect a stack to ship like a full application. So the API here is very cool. As the prior speakers talked to, platform.stability.ai, you can see here the auth methods. You have to get your API key going, and then you can utilize the Postman collection that was shared prior, which is fantastic. And I'll talk again about that in a moment. But I'm going to start with Hugging Face, because we love Hugging Face here at Cowork, and it's a way that I learn about like how these models are basically utilized in a more dynamic setting. So for instance, there were some questions about fine tuning. So if you search something like Dream Booth, you can see here the Hugging Face search will bring you like different like raw models, pre-trained models. It will bring you data sets, spaces, organizations, and users. It's important that you're aware of the differences between these. So basically, data sets inform training. Models are the results of basically pre-processing with training data. Spaces are usually some GUI interface. Usually Gradio is what I've seen with these models. So for instance, if we choose like multimodal art with the Dreambooth training space, this is actually really cool. I will actually link this, or maybe the lab team can link this. But essentially, you have to realize that some of these processes, especially fine tuning, like they require you to have a souped up instance. So you need to have like some level of like GPU capacity to actually run the training. So step one here is you create a Hugging Face account. This is among the simpler routes, but this can be emulated across other cloud platforms like AWS or Google Cloud or whatever it may be. So you're going to duplicate the space, and in the settings, actually, let me just get into what this does first. So if you want to fine tune something, this is actually pretty cool. You can utilize Stable Diffusion v1 or v2 with the 512 or 768 res here. We've been training object and style models at Cowork, both using 512 and 768. Essentially, you're gonna select like object, style, or person. The differences here are pretty nuanced. I think we'll need longer time to go into the nuances here, but essentially a style would be something like, as Jock talked about, if you have an artist or an Instagram page, how do you generate images in a very, very particular nuanced style that maybe you're not going to get from one image through clip interrogation? So say you have thousands of images, or say you have like, whatever it is, like a whole Instagram account full of images. This is like I guess like more fine-tuned route to arrive at a style model that you can like reuse. So what you're going to do is utilize this tool. They use Burmy here, which is a pretty cool tool here, but it's important when you're creating your training data. The resolution for each image has to be precise, and it has to be the same across all of your training images. So if you're doing 512, just utilize this 512 by 512 kind of crop tool. If you're utilizing 768, it's the same thing, 768. You're going to upload your images. You're going to resave those to your computer in like a zip file or like some directory, and then upload it again to this model here. You're going to create a concept prompt. So you don't want a prompt that that conflicts with something that the model is probably trained on prior. Meaning, like, if you're just searching like the English language for, tags or words or phrases that are pretty common, you don't want to use that. You want to do something like literally, I will auto generate like a alphanumeric string, something random. And I'll put like a descriptor or something like that. This doesn't matter. This is just used for the next step, and I'll get into this in a moment, to inform what model to use. Because when you're basically constructing the prompt with a fine-tuned model, you have to include this pointer for it to know what to do or if to use it or not. So you're gonna create a concept prompt. You can add multiple concepts. You're gonna name a model, and then you're gonna upload it either to a public library. If you upload it to a public library, anyone on Hugging Face can play with it, which is cool for research. If you upload it to a personal profile, you can make it private. And that's like if you're training on like sensitive data, or in our case with Cowork, sometimes we train an object or style model with a client's information, and they'd like to, some of those images are private, and they like to keep that kind of private. So that's okay. You put your token in, and before you can start training, you're gonna have to update to the proper hardware. So you need like a instance with at least enough GPU capacity to run the training. You can see here that this would cost around 44 cents. Actually, you know what? No, this is so for 10 to 20 images, I guess their estimate is around 44 cents. In our experience, it's generally anywhere from like $1 to $8. We use around 15 to 30 photos in our tests to start with, but you can go like way deeper than that. For instance, here is actually a resulting. So when you train this, I'm trying to break it down simply as possible. The model itself is going to be saved to your personal profile. So when you go to Hugging Face, you go down to this models section, and you can see a bunch of these models that have been trained on, your custom photos or photos from a client or whatever it may be. So the question is, like, how do you utilize these models now in generative pipelines with a full stack application? There's multiple ways to do it. I'll go through one pathway here so you guys can learn from this and maybe utilize it in your projects. You have to clarify, is it okay if it's public or private first? If it's private, there's one additional step, and I'll get into that in a moment. Essentially, whenever you open up a space, there's this tab up here called Files, and you can come in and see like what are the files that make up this app. Like how is this app being presented? The cool thing about this is like you can learn about how, what's happening under the hood here. Usually you're going to come into an app.py entry point. This is going to be like your main script. You can see here that they're pulling in, a variety of dependencies. You're going to need the related dependencies in a requirements text file here. So you can just learn about like what does it take to actually produce this from a raw state. This is important because I like to learn about like, okay, if we're to build this on a custom instance or deploy this to like AWS EC2 or whatever it may be, like how do we actually generate this from scratch, and then how do we tweak it further? So this is where you can investigate the code, like what they're doing here, what all those inputs are informing in the backend. You can come into change up the actual Gradio interface itself. So this is for education, but then once you have the model, the question is like, how do you actually do something with it? So this is our approach. Actually, I'm gonna deprecate that, by the way. I had this open prepared for the dynamic token there, but I'll change up that token. But anyways, if it's a private model, like what you have to do is essentially import the proper dependencies. Here we're using diffusers from Stable Diffusion pipeline. You have to, if it's private, you have to log and authenticate with Hugging Face. So you need a Hugging Face API token, and then you have to load the actual model. So that model, once you save it from fine tuning, is going to be saved to some profile, whether it was public or your own. Change out the path and change out the name of the model, load it into a pipe, and then you can perform inference. So essentially, this is that concept ID that was talked about earlier. This is that just random, alphanumeric string that isn't easily associated with like a recognizable phrase or some English word or something like that, or whatever your native language is. We tend to, so in this example, like I'm just prepending that in the prompt so that the client, if the client is working with some custom model, so style or object, they don't have to worry about pasting this in. So we're going to do that for them in the backend. They can be like, okay, generate whatever it is in this style. And I have an example here. This is actually one of our early clients. So you can see here, their style is kind of, I'm not like an art expert, but it's kind of industrial. There's like gray tones and like there's a pretty recognizable color palette here. Like if you looked at this page for long enough and you saw like a photo on Instagram or out in the wild, you could probably be like, oh yeah, it kind of has a copper creation vibe. The question is like, how do you train a model to have a vibe? It is pretty custom and includes like a lot of training data. We go through that process as mentioned. However, we don't have to go precisely through Hugging Face. Like once you have that raw code, you can deploy that to like a souped up instance via Google Cloud or AWS or whatever it is. So I just generated a chair here with the custom style model. And actually I just had this, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I clicked a button and it changed the page, but that chair was actually in that style and it's very much in alignment, if you notice, like with this kind of vibe. I'll start this up again. Something that is important for you guys to be aware of is if you do launch these in Hugging Face, like the minimum instance type is a T4 small. That's what we found. You can also run the CPU versions of some of these models, or you can run it on a CPU, but it's going to be super slow, and the performance it's going to get hit super hard. Like if you're deploying this for a production app for clients, unless they're okay with waiting potentially, I don't know, a long amount of time for the generation to happen, like you're going to want to deploy this on something that is capable of running it within a reasonable range. Like for us, the average time to generate is around like 4 seconds with the T4 small. If you bump it up to A10G small, you're going to get even better performance. If you bump it up even further, you'll get even better performance. So just something to keep in mind. And also these models, this is running at 60 cents per hour. So we try to include the inactivity like sleep settings to be proper to save some money. But realistically in production, this would be running pretty much like nearly around the clock. Beyond this, I want to talk to another point that I think someone brought up that I think is important to address, and that is like on the full stack side, like how do you actually deploy an application that interfaces with this kind of tech in your own custom like your custom GUI. So if you design a UI, whether it's like a React app or whatever it is, like how do you actually take the final leap and deploy that? There's 2 pathways I think are pretty straightforward that could be helpful for you guys in the hackathon. And these are 2 of many pathways, but 2 that I really like are if you come to, so I like Heroku a lot. So with Heroku, you can actually link a specific branch of a GitHub repo to a deployment pipeline. And then every time you push to that branch, so say it's like your main branch, your production branch, like you're going to deploy a new application to a specific instance here, and then you can point the DNS records to a custom website. So for us, like we're using Heroku in the backend for our deployment pipelines. You can also, because I know Vercel is a sponsor of the hackathon, I just want to point this out for you guys. CodeSandbox.io is pretty cool. So you can just choose like whatever template you're looking for, like, say it's like a Vanilla.js. You can click Vanilla.js here. It opens up this pretty cool kind of sandbox where we can do some coding. You can see a preview, etc. And they have this deploy tab where you can deploy directly with Vercel. and it's really smooth. And then once you get to Vercel's side of things, like you're going to generate like your API keys and stuff, and then you can customize like DNS settings and stuff like that. If you upgrade this to a cloud sandbox, then you can open it up in something like VS Code. So what we do with, this is kind of like my flow. I'm just showing you guys like, more about the stack here. Like we have, Node Express with an API, and then on the front end, you can use something like React or whatever your favorite front end framework is. But the reason I do this is because you may run into an issue if you're trying to script something from the front end, and you're using some library like fetch. Like earlier, it was mentioned. For instance, this is an API call to the Hugging Face space that's hosting hosting one of those private models. The earlier speaker mentioned this tab here for the code. This is very helpful. You can literally select any code, flavor you'd like. Like for us on the web side, we'll do something like fetch. On the mobile side, we're building a Flutter app, so we'll do something like Dart. So you can just integrate it pretty easily. So here's the Dart HTTP way, here's the JavaScript fetch way, or whatever your favorite flavor is. But just keep in mind that you have to be cognizant of CORS issues. Like many of you have probably run into CORS, C-O-R-S. I'm going to bring this up because it's a headache if you're not aware of it. You need to run these scripts in the backend somehow, because if you try to run it through the front end of your application, you're probably gonna run into like a CORS issue, and it won't even go through, and you might spend hours or days trying to debug that. So the way I recommend to solve that is utilize something like Express. So running all of these calls in the backend, and use an environment file for your API keys, as mentioned. Like don't deploy those, don't hard code those in your files. And that way you'll get around the CORS issues. And there's also some libraries that help with CORS on the Express side. Furthermore, if you don't want to put the raw scripts directly into your Express layer, there's a more advanced way that we utilize for things like the custom model, where it's living on another piece of hardware. And in this case, for Hugging Face, once you build up this custom model here, and actually, I have to, for the demo, I changed a part of the code there. But once you have this model open, I'll just open like a random one here, like this right here. You can access it in a variety of ways. But if you come down to the bottom of these Hugging Face spaces, it says use via API. This is actually pretty cool. Like you can just plug directly into some running space on a piece of hardware, and then you can, run the model or run the inputs and outputs just like you would in Hugging Face space. For instance, like that's what we're doing in this example here. Like I'm literally bringing this payload into Postman to this specific endpoint, changing up, like you have a base 64 encoding of an image as an input. Then you have some object description that can either come from clip interrogation, or you can have the user like describe what the product is or whatever, and then a prompt. Like this is for our specific flow with Cowork, but it may be different for you. But I bring this up because it's pretty cool. Like you can seamlessly hop between the Hugging Face hardware hosted scripts that require those souped up GPUs if you're not using Stability.AI's APIs. And then you can bring it into your app, and you can deploy it through Vercel or deploy it through Heroku. And yeah, I think, actually, let me just make sure. I have these, I think beyond that, oh yeah, Google Cloud. So this is another way to build up like a backend application that interacts with something like OpenAI, for instance. Like during the hackathon, we spun this up for just as a test to kind of integrate part of the Google Cloud function here. But it's a similar flow, like whether you're writing this in Express or a Cloud function, or you're writing it in a Hugging Face space that's private or whatever. Just make sure to protect your keys. And when you deploy those, you want to call it from the backend every time to avoid CORS, and deploy it to some instance type that can handle what you're doing. So I think that kind of sums up. I'll give you guys, this is Cowork, by the way. So coworkwith.ai. curious about what we're doing, you'd like to join our team, like we're a team of 3 people right now, pretty tight. Something we're working on is this problem that we find with Stable Diffusion right now, and that is around text, legibility, and labels. So for instance, like I have this bottle here. You can see here like there's some pretty nuanced like graphics and text and things on the bottle. We have trained object and style models to test this. We are able to generate the bottle, so the shape and everything, the plastic and stuff looks pretty on point. But the actual like nuances of the graphics are very unpredictable. I'll say that. So what we're trying to do is like figure out like how do we solve this problem? We are aware that there are compositing techniques in Photoshop and Blender and things like that. Like we can, we're trying to basically reverse engineer how does that work in an automated fashion? How can we solve for this with Stable Diffusion? So basically building a pipeline to get us to that point and then solve that final piece. That's what we're working on in this hackathon, and we're also doing it with Cowork. So if you guys would like to join us, feel free to ping either via the lab team we have, or you can ping via like LinkedIn or something, and we can get connected. But we love collaboration, and that's why we love hackathons. So I think that's about it for now.
All right. Thanks a lot for the talk and for really detailed. I didn't thought that you will go that deep in the projects, but I guess it was really useful for teams to see how it can work on the back end, and probably they will take something to their project as well. I have 2 questions for you. First question I have is, could you please quickly list all the models you use for Cowork?
We're using mainly SD 2.1. Yeah.
Okay.
We also switched between SD 1.5 and then now SDXL. And we also A/B test with DALI too. And there's some newer kind of some new, like as mentioned, there's a lot of research teams. So Google Imagen just came out, and as soon as like we do test across multiple different groups. But as mentioned earlier, I think it was one of the speakers talked about the difference between latent diffusion and like image diffusion. So Stability.AI like remains as probably the highest quality we've seen so far. So that's why we're going with 2.1 mainly.
Awesome. And when it comes to other models, not only Stable Diffusion, I mean, like for image generation, do you use something for text generation for now, or anything else specific that can be useful to know?
Yeah, so we're using GBT 3.5 Turbo and 4. Actually, I didn't even go into that side of it. We do our interface does have. I'm not sure if this is gonna if it doesn't load, it's okay.
I don't think we need to go and check it. I'm just interested in things you were using for the project. So is it possible to combine all these models during the hackathon? That's what I'm mainly interested in.
Yeah. So we have like literally this is GBT 3.5 Turbo via the API in the backend. So we're relaying this to that Google Cloud function, and then the Cloud function is interfacing with OpenAI. There's multiple ways to do that, like whether you're wherever your API like entry point is, but we are using OpenAI in the backend for that.
All right, thanks for that. And one last question I do have for you is, what was the biggest challenge for your team during the 7 days of creation? It's not only, sorry for interrupting, but it's not only about technology itself. I meant for you in general, as people will face with this probably during this 7 days of creation with Stable Diffusion. So maybe you have something to tell and we can prevent it.
Yeah. So I will say it's not easy. like being an entrepreneur is not easy. You have to be pretty intense. Like you have to be disciplined. You have to work, almost every day usually. For us, like we're balancing like day jobs and stuff like that. So, just figuring out initially like what I showed you guys today is actually the result of a lot of headache we went through to figure out like how to actually do this. So if you run into like an obstacle with like fine tuning or something, don't be afraid to reach out to your fellow hacketeers for wisdom, and also reach out to some of the mentors. It was also somewhat difficult coordinating, like, just meetups together because everyone has their own day jobs, and we were working with a team in multiple time zones around the world. So it's okay if you're working async. Just make sure that you try to formulate a game plan where you have limited resources, so you know that you only have like either yourself or a small team. So make sure that every team member has something to focus on, and try to, I think it was mentioned earlier, like this idea of proving the concept before you go super deep into beautiful UI. So try to build like the rawest version of it to work, and make sure that whoever on your team is working on that can produce at least that in like a day or something. And then if they do that, then they can go forward with that kind of thing. It's just to say, like, you have to learn about the strengths of your team members and play to the strengths. So with us, like, we quickly kind of identified what our strengths were, and we're like, okay, let's combine all of this into something that's functional. And for us, it was a Flutter application because I'm a mobile developer, and we had another team member who was familiar with Flutter, and it was utilizing the Graph API from Facebook for just a preliminary auth flow, and then fine tuning or going through the clip interrogation flow to figure out how to generate a photo for a social post. Like, it was a very hyper focused use case, but yeah, like, I will say this though, there's no easy way around being successful as a startup. Like, you have to work super hard, and you have to,
times at least.
yeah, for sure. And you have to try not to be, and this is going to sound kind of nuanced, but try not to be emotional about what you're building. What I mean by that is, like, keep pushing forward, like, realize, like, be fluid, be like water almost, like, keep producing results, like, ship often, even if it's not like perfect, or if it's not like the final grand vision, and keep seeking validation for these little changes. Also, I'm grateful that my previous project, I went through Y Combinator Accelerator, and they taught us about primary market fit, or product market fit, through primary research, so PMR. So definitely, like, interview like your peers and interview your potential clients even before you have something. Like, there's a ton of wisdom to be gained from just cold pinging on LinkedIn or whatever, for at least like a round of, I would say, like 20 to 30 potential clients to validate that what you're building is actually going to have some value. And then therefore you won't be in a situation where you're either wasting time or money, or you may be in a sunken cost situation. So
Okay, that's really good things to point out, to really build a very small little version of the concept first and then go further and use this. Okay, go check out these mentors. Thank you so much, Frank, for joining us today and for giving us all this information. Guys, you can connect with Frank here on Discord or via LinkedIn in case you have some questions regarding Cowork AI or just to Frank itself. And we are a bit off the schedule, but still, I'm really thankful for Adam to stay with us for a longer time to have his talk. Adam, are you with us? Please let us know.
Actually,
Yeah, I see you are.
yeah,
Perfect.
right.
That's your last inspirational talk before people will go to the information. Please, you have huge responsibility on you for now to give them this ton of inspiration to go and start building. So the stage is yours. Go ahead.
Okay, actually, I basically did my talk together with Scott. Instead, yeah, I guess relating to what Frank was saying about text on objects being difficult to work with as inits, with the details getting lost. I think what I've seen so far in terms of people going to like really like high quality production, they still benefit quite a lot from what at this point is considered more traditional, like masking, compositing, those techniques in together with the strengths of Stable Diffusion. So working on animation, that's a pretty important thing. Yeah, earlier I was working on Disco Diffusion, and that was a even more like much more primitive in some ways way to go about things. But people still got some good results by when the people actually made music videos and stuff. They sometimes they went for color stylization around um, like stars of the music video who they obviously didn't want to degrade their faces of. So they had people kind of doing generations, masking out areas, compositing, doing color grading, all that, and it comes out looking amazing, even though that was much more primitive. So yeah, so we're in a transition point right now where, in combination with what people were doing prior to these models, it can work out really, really great. But unfortunately, there is still quite a lot of work. But that's also kind of fortunate, because it's good to be able to leverage everything that you know right now in order to get the results, and that's still working very much. Yeah, so that's primarily what I'd say about that. Aside from that, Tom mentioned on the roadmap, the next month or so is going to be pretty crazy. It's kind of been teased. There's going to be some more releases. You mentioned Deep Floyd. That's another one that it's pretty powerful, and it's different technically than Stable Diffusion. Yeah, in terms of getting large amounts of text into Stable Diffusion and working with it, it doesn't work that great. It's true. It doesn't really capture that very well. And if you ask for any generation on it, it doesn't retain it. So you could try using low strengths of generation, which will effectively kind of will noise it up a bit, kind of blur it up a bit, and then do a bit of generation on top of that. But you have to keep that really light, and you could composite that stuff on top of it. Yeah, aside from that, some animations coming up pretty soon. The timeline, we're probably not going to choose to release too many things simultaneously. It's crowded enough that that's happening. So stay tuned for that, I guess. Yeah.
You made a really great announcement, and now we are super excited to know when it will be live and when we can start actually building with these animation tools.
Yeah.
It's coming.
that's how people always end up saying. Otherwise, yeah.
Probably the best way is to be on Stability.AI Discord server and follow all the updates, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We will be stay tuned there, and also I'm really happy for you guys that you are able to build with the latest model that was just released. I saw that it was probably today or tomorrow announced on Stability.AI channel, and we already can build with it. And I'm really don't want to take so much time, and I'm super excited to announce the team formation process that is starting from now. So we will see you on Discord, where we can help you with forming the team. But please take actions and do it yourself. Write to people that you are interested in their expertise, form the teams, pitch your ideas to people, and let's start the building process. So I wish you really good luck, and this time it should be so much fun with Stable Diffusion. So have fun during this talk, and feel free to reach out to mentors, as you have really unique opportunity today to contact with all Stability.AI people on our Discord, answering your questions. So take opportunities and connect with people, and let's start the building process. So guys, happy to have you on the stream today, and see you on Discord.